Hey guys, last week was a bit anticlimactic, huh? Mostly after Monday, I caught a cold, because apparently Nurgle got a bit frustrated that I did Slaanesh first, so we're gonna do it right, I guess, and do him now. My voice will be rough, but I guess it just adds to the ambiance now, doesn't it? So, let's get into it. Papa Nurgle. Warning, he's fucking gross. The unholy combination of your loving grandfather and Santa, if all he gave you were plagues and every day was Christmas. Also known as Papa or Grandpa Nurgle, he is the god of misunderstood sick fucks. No, not those, we mean literally sick and all diseases. Nurgle is primarily the god of despair, stagnation, death, decay, and in a way, entropy, signifying the end of things in the material realm. Though this is technically a position he shares with ʔʟʟ, something that both of them question and hate. Nurgle can be considered the god of everything, because no matter how permanent anything may seem, it will always eventually wither and decay in the end. While death is inevitable, sapient creatures will also fight against it with all available power, even to the point where they'd bargain with the gods of the warp to flip death the bird. While some may turn to ʔʟʟ or Nagash, only the children of Grandfather Nurgle transcend the feeble divisions between life and death, achieving true immortality, or at least unnatural resilience and eventual rebirth as plague bearers. We get an actual description of his appearance in the Age of Sigmar novel, Hallowed Knight's Plague Garden. Through the ragged shroud of smoke, Gardas saw what lay below the inevitable citadel, at the heart of Nurgle's garden. Almost immediately, he closed his eyes and turned away, unable to bear it. It was impossible to describe, impossible to comprehend. To his eyes, it was a wallowing swamp of black stairs and dying worlds, of rotting galaxies alive with immense, writhing shapes as large as nebulas, cosmic maggots gnawing at the roots of infinity, galactic plagues eating away at the very flesh of existence, reducing all that was to leprous ruin with their unending hunger. It was a dark mirror of Azir, corrupted, reduced, strangled. All glory vanished, all hope quashed. A thunder of screams echoed upwards, driving him back. A million voices, raised up in anguish and despair, forever crying out for that which would never come. Down below, something began to crawl out of the black heart of that cancerous infinity. It was no shape, in all shapes, fat and thin, a plume of smoke, a puddle of oil, spreading ever upwards. There were eyes in the smoke, as round as cold dead suns, in teeth that stretched in a grin as wide as the horizon. Fingers like comets clutched at the void, as the Lord of all things stirred from his manse and began the long, arduous climb to his garden. Moons crumbled beneath that impossible hulk, and stars were snuffed out. Nurgle is also the god of other stoic emotions, such as empathy, kinship, happiness, struggle, love, tradition, inevitability, mercy, and memory. While ʔʟʟ seeks to twist fate and change reality, Nurgle teaches to accept entropy and rot and persevere despite it, with solace and happiness. His followers will vigorously spread the joyous teachings of Papa Nurgle, and if those living fleshbags won't listen, they'll be shown all the pleasant ways for them to experience the unending cycle of death and rebirth. In the 1984-esque cold, grim darkness of outer space, where life sucks and everyone's a dick, Nurgle cares. And he loves you. He brings you family, love, and the time to embrace that love fully and become one with it. He accepts you for who you are, as long as you stay that way. Also, don't wash, don't shave, and don't change your underwear. You're great the way you are. He knows that you have been abandoned by your past lovers, friends, and family. He knows that you need the feeling of belonging, security, and stability in your life. He will embrace you if you trust him to bring you an internal, painless existence. Just ignore the pus and the smell coming from the forming folds inside and outside your body. Nurgle's chosen champions are the warriors of chaos / plague marines, who have willingly accepted his myriad diseases and let him turn them into shambling, bloated, zombie-like carrions that no longer feel any pain. Though it is not well known, he does have a few Sisters of Battle who worship him, which is a fucking disgusting green text, by the way. The nature of Nurgle is that anyone suffering from one of his plagues is counted as one of his worshippers, and he'll grant chaos blessings freely to them. In 40k, he saved the Eldar goddess Isha from Slaanesh to become his Pax Fulcrum, a guinea pig for Nurgle's concoctions who can't be killed by them, and wife. Slaanesh is still upset and doesn't really like Nurgle for that. Nowadays, Nurgle and Isha live as a happy couple in Nurgle's garden somewhere in the warp. Nurgle likes to cook, and Isha is always eager to taste his stewings. Not from what I read in there, bud. In fantasy, Nurgle kept the human goddess Shea as captive as his Pax Fulcrum, until she was rescued by Dante Alighieri, Kaldor Drago, and 2 elves, with the second, a female, taking Shea's place. In Age of Sigmar, he becomes fixated on insert elf name here and her dryad daughters. Generally speaking, he's the third most powerful chaos god after Khorne and Tzeentch, respectively. All the other chaos gods have their power wax and wane, but Nurgle's strength is the most subject to change. His power waxes during great plagues and times of great despair, decay, stagnation, and when individuals let go of their ambitions. He becomes less influential during periods of great hope, change, and evolution, and when cures for his plagues are found, as well when individuals give in to their ambitions. During an especially big plague and or period of stagnation, even more so than is usual for Warhammer anyway, including GW's own stagnation of the storyline, as well as their business, which would in theory make him the strongest god, but as soon as this is acknowledged, things would no longer be stagnant, just as Tzeentch had planned. Decay and despair. He can temporarily become the mightiest chaos god, and his realm will encroach upon the realms of other chaos gods and the neutral, undivided, law or unaligned parts of the warp. But as all power in the warp is a constant change due to the life in the material realm being what it is, events that fuel his burst of power will eventually end and he will return to the position of being in third place. Ironically, he's easily one of the most successful of the chaos gods in fantasy, having had the champions sworn to him specifically, rather than Chaos Undivided, get the closest to claiming the throne of Chaos, and having contributed the most to the end times. Nurgle is the hero of all fat guys, ripe, fat, and smelly. Other than being bloated, living corpses filled with wriggling vermin, Nurgle followers have other iconic traits: singular or triple eyes arranged in a triangle, long tongues or insectoid appearances, singular horns and ringing bells. They usually paint their armor in snotty greens, dooky browns, or biley yellows. Most often greens, though. As can be expected of all the Chaos Gods, Nurgle is the most likely to corrupt orcs and goblins, / orcs, as if those sons of bitches couldn't get any tougher. Papa Nurgle's forces. Great Unclean Ones. Greater demons with a great sense of humor and a jolly split belly ready to jiggle with laughter. These merry guffaws will make their entrails dangle from their open festering wounds, which Nurglings and beasts love to jump up and down on and play with. You can smell the tangy perfume of ruptured boils, and it's said Nurgle himself is kind enough to coat their swords in the contagion of his own throne. What a swell chap. Never too high and mighty to help his followers. Beast of Nurgle. These are the puppy dogs you ask Santa for. Complete and equipped with wagging tails, a long tongue to lick your face, the scampering excitement of youth, a slug-like texture, and paralytic toxins. If they get a little too excited, they might piddle corrosive acid. Become a stalwart Nurgle follower and get one today. Rotfly. Beasts of Nurgle who have become bitter and have transformed into a giant insect, typically ridden by plague bearers into battle. Plague bearers. Reincarnated souls of Nurgle's followers are the victims that fell to Nurgle's rot. Nurgle is so generous that the gift of demonhood isn't just for demon princes. They look like bloated corpses of the drowned, but instead of water, they swell with pus and black bile. They are typically surrounded with swarms of buzzing flies, who make the plague bearers much more complicated targets of shooting attacks. Really love to share their gifts. Their arms are made for hugging. Nurglings. Look like a tiny child's toy versions of Nurgle himself. They are cute, and every Nurgle trooper wants the schlorp pitter drip of a pet Nurgling of their own, which is great because Nurglings can grow inside the skin of any Nurgle worshipper. The more plagued you are, the more likely you are to become pregnant with a few or more of these cute buggers at any given time. Poxwalkers, which is just me now, I guess. Mortals infected by walking pox, and perhaps representing the transitional stage before one becomes a plague bearer after succumbing to Papa Nurgle's blessings. They are basically demon-powered zombies, shambling forward slowly and carrying only improvised melee weapons. Plague Marines mostly consist of members of the 14th Legion, although a substantial number of the 16th Legion are now blessed with Papa Nurgle's gifts. As Astartes who are immune to pain and minor injuries, these guys are particularly difficult to kill. Plague-touched warbands. Warriors of chaos who worship Nurgle. Enough said. Nurgle Rotbringers. His mortal servants in Age of Sigmar. Putrid Blight Kings. Pusgoyle Bright Lords. Harbingers of Decay. Rotbringers. Magath Lords. Feculent Gnarlmaws. They're all there. They're all pussy, and they're all ready to give you a nice big hug. Nurgle Antidotes. About a year ago, I was out having a few drinks with the boys when in walks Nurgle. He bought drinks for everyone in the bar. When we were all too hammered to drive home, he loaded us all up in his old Mazda 96 and bussed us around town until we made it back home. And when that cop pulled us over and tried to make trouble, Nurgle boiled his eyes out of his anus. Nurgle's a great guy. Me and Nurgle were going to go see this movie. Can't remember the name, and we were passing through the bad part of this ornate neighborhood. Some fucking bloodletters ran out in front of the car and started denting up the damn thing. Nurgle just sits there, waiting for them to get out of the way, with that big goofy smile on his face. It wasn't until one of them busted my window and tried to drag me out of the car that Nurgle absolutely flips shit. Before I know it, the whole road is ground zero for like an army of little black things. I couldn't figure out what they were until the bloodletters started screaming, running around in circles and clawing at their nuts. Their genitals just started exploding one by one. Nurgle drives off, just wearing a smile. Fucker gave them all a case of super crabs. We laughed all the way to the show. I love Nurgle. He's a pretty fun guy to be around, just like Karn. When I visited the Nurglet's family and met Papa Nurgle, he greeted me at the doorstep, football in hand, wearing an old fuzzy sweater and fuzzy orange socks with a big goofy grin that said, "I like you already." You know, it's a good thing in that grimdark universe with pointy aliens blowing off your limbs, some undead robots trying to deatomize you, the Imperium with its throne vegetable for an emperor, and the Inquisition trying to exterminate the shit out of everybody. You get to have the most loving family circle ever. Sure, you start to smell a little funny, get a sore here and there, and a rash on your ass, but hell, you never ever feel pain or get upset since you no longer fear death. You get to have an immortal, eternal father that spreads joy and gifts all around, with plenty to spare, and a Nurglet wife that is the most loving and caring, if you can stand her burps and farts. And while you be the most hideous thing in the universe, what use is appearance and health if everybody else is willing to take it away from you? When I was about 7 years old, my mother got diagnosed with lung cancer. After a month or two, her condition became worse, and she started to have these random coughing fits, and shortly thereafter, she started to cough blood. My father was not allowed to take a loan to try and find a trustworthy and professional, and thus expensive, doctor to set up a recovery program. So my mother decided to just live on pain pills and do as much as possible for her family before her body gave up. Then one day, completely out of nowhere, my mother collapses on the stairs of our home and does not wake up even though we've put wet blankets on her face. My father takes the car and immediately drives us to the hospital. The physicians tell us that her body is dying. She is in great pain and there is nothing we can do. As we stand there, next to her bunk, exhausted from unrest and tears, I see Nurgle standing next to me. Time freezes, and the room suddenly fills with a sweet scent, like those white flowers of blooming apple trees. Nurgle has a goofy smile on his face. He reaches down towards my mother, and just as I see his finger make contact with her shoulder, she gasps, and her face lights up as if she instantly got 20 years younger. She looks so beautiful and innocent laying there. Nurgle tells me that he is sorry, but for my mother to stop feeling pain, he needs to take her with him. Her goodness, beauty, and love will live forever. As I see my mother's skin darken and fall off, to reveal corrupted and worm-infested flesh, sliding off in heaps to eventually reveal the bones turning to milky paste, I hear her last words. Thank you. Nurgle saved my mother, and for that, I'm eternally thankful. Nurgle is love. Nurgle is life. So that's the end of the video, and I'm sorry my voice is so shit, but I didn't want y'all to wait a whole other week with nothing coming out, so I'm gonna struggle bust through this shit to try and get you all your videos. So I'm gonna go ahead and apologize ahead of time and say I'm sorry the quality is not as good as it could be, but I'd rather you guys have me sounding stuffy and stupid than have nothing at all. Hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, be sure to like and subscribe and click the bell icon so you know when the videos are released through the week. This has been Nurgle Blessed Guard Bro, and I will see you next time. Nurgle is love. Nurgle is life.
All those moments will be lost.